Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bordertown Strange. I'm Pam. This is my co host, Jess.
Hello.
And tonight we are talking about crop circles. And luckily, at least with the group that we have, I don't think a lot of people will be rolling their eyes at that topic. But, it's not just about two drunk dudes with a plank and some rope. It truly isn't. And by the end of the evening, we hope that we can really show you some information that will leave you scratching your head and maybe realizing that there's a lot more to this than people sometimes think that there is. But before we get all into that, Jess, do you want to start us out with the what the weird word?
Yep. So, like Pam was talking about, this topic is so much more than two old drunk guys with some scraps of wood. So, we thought it would be fun to make Doug and Dave our what the weird words of the week because, as I was saying backstage to Pam, they really have become verbs in our usual language, much like John Keel. We always talk about don't go off and kill yourself. We often mock Doug and Dave and use them as they totally Doug and Dave to that one. So we're going to start off our night with Doug and Dave and just get this funniness out of the way. So Dave Chorley and Doug Bauer were two self-claimed artists who in 1991 came forward with the claim that they were responsible for the crop circles that appeared throughout England and actually beyond that too. They reported that the circles were created using simple boards tied to their feet, homemade devices attached to their ball caps for precision and shaping precision shaping and pole vaults to get from pattern to pattern. So this is really just a very condensed version of the hilarity that goes along with this story. I actually threw some pictures into the mix so you guys can kind of get a general idea, if you've never heard of Doug and Dave, what this hilarity is about.
And remember, these
So,
pictures are from the 90s. So,
yes. They claim to have been doing this for more than 15 years at the time that they came forward with the announcement that all the crop circles were due to them. They got the idea one night while they were drunk at the pub, where they usually were every night, not at home with their wives, and thought, it might be fun to go out there and see if we can do these. So they hashed together some boards with some ropes to step on, some sticks, and you can see up in the corner here the gentleman with the little doohickey bobber thingamajig hanging from his hat, which apparently made the crop circles that they created completely precise. Still not sure how that works, but we're going to go with it. And they literally would just stomp down the circles. Now, they did one in front of the BBC News to prove that it was them. And they did make a circle. However, it was not a great circle, and it was less than stunning looking when they were finished. But, of course, for the BBC News and all the news programs around the world, all the media, this was fair enough to convince them that it must have been Doug and Dave that had done all of these crop circles.
yeah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. I always like to talk about, they were like, they must have had frequent flyer miles out the wazoo. Because at the same time that these crop circles were going on in Europe, across Europe, they were also going on in the United States and Australia and even further beyond that. So I'm not quite sure how they accomplished them all. Or even the ones prior to the 15 years before that they claimed they started doing them.
Yeah. And then if you go even further back, I mean, historically, they've been around since what, the 1600s, and
Yes.
probably before that too, I'm sure.
Probably before.
But yeah, one of the earliest documented cases of it is from
Yes.
1678 from Hertfordshire. I hope I said that right, Ian.
Oh, you
England.
should have a fun night tonight. Get your booze out, Ian.
You're going to be toasty by the end of this. But yeah, So, crop circles, like Jess was saying, they're really not a modern phenomenon. They're not something that started in the 70s. They were actually there a lot longer. Um, and so let's talk a little bit about this first one from the 1600s. It's called the mowing devil. And I know Jess has some info on this too, but it was in Hertfordshire, and someone had printed it. This was on a woodcut that was done for pamphlets that were made. And the pamphlet is titled, this is the actual title, The Mowing Devil, or Strange News Out of Hertfordshire. And it tells the story of a farmer in the village of Hertford who had gotten into an argument with a laborer about the price of mowing his oat field. And the farmer said, and I'm going to paraphrase this here, he'd rather the devil mow his field than to pay that price. And so the laborer just walked off. And then that night, according to the account, the field appeared to be on fire. And in the morning, when the farmer went out to see what had happened, you can see in the woodcut illustration that we have up on the screen, it shows a small horned devil figure crouching in the center of a field. He's mowing the oats in a perfect oval or circular pattern. And the description in the text says the oats were so exactly cut and laid so curious that no mortal man was able to do the like. And the circles were, by account, perfectly formed. The stalks were laid flat with a precision that actually baffled the locals. So is this a crop circle? Strictly speaking, it we kind of think it is. This is a historical account. You need to realize it was filtered through theological lens of the 17th century rural England. So, of course, they're going to attribute it to the devil because that was their available framework at the time. But the described phenomenon, the perfectly circular, the precisely laid, the inexplicably neat impression in the grain field, and that it appeared overnight, it all fits the pattern exactly. So, but that's not the only historical reference that's out there, is it?
No, there's so many. I just wrote a little small listing of some of the ones that we found. In 1880, circles were reported by a nature magazine by scientist John Rand Capron. In 1932, circles were reported by archaeologist E.C. Curran in England. It goes on, and I actually pulled up, if you want to pull up a couple of the next...
Sure.
Pull up, like, the next one. You can find them in old art, called various different things, and just... Actually, if you want some fun, just get up online and look up UFOs in old artwork. And you'll almost always find a crop circle on the ground to go along with whatever crazy things flying in the sky in those old master paintings. This one here I found is by Johann Schutzer from 1776. He loved doing pictures of, like, above ground strange circles that led to underground aquifers, and we're gonna talk about how aquifers kind of go along with crop circles a whole lot. He's almost illustrating a point that we're gonna make later on. You'll find a lot of artwork like this of his where it's showing obvious crop circles above.
Because it's very cool because this is from 1776, so
Yes.
it's not very new itself.
Mm-hmm.
But we run into a lot of the things, medieval European folklore. It's saturated with accounts of like fairy rings and stuff. And I'm not talking like the mushroom rings that grandma might have pointed out, or I would point out even in the yard. But even those are kind of related to fairy rings. But we're talking about more of the circular depressions and the flattened areas and the grass and the grain that appears overnight. But those have been clear across Britain and Ireland, Northern Europe, and they were all attributed at the time universally and immediately to the Fae. And that belief, it was consistent over hundreds of years of folk tradition. And that was that the fairies danced in these circles at night, and that the circular mark was the impression of their dancing, their movement, their ritual, and that the rings were considered liminal spaces. So that's places, we talk about that a lot, places where the boundary between the human world and the other is thin, places where time doesn't work quite right and where it's not smart to linger or to go into to be even at all. But you've got county records across Britain, from Suffolk to Shropshire, from Dorset to Somerset. They all contain references in the agricultural records of the 17 and 1800s to circles in the corn that couldn't be explained. You've got farmers reporting these to parish councils. You got magistrates noting them, but not with, and they're not alarmed about it. They're just like a very matter of fact tone in the documentation of people just reporting something that just kind of happens sometimes. It was kind of like it was an accepted, if not an inexplicable feature of agricultural life. But like Jess said, it wasn't only in Britain. It was worldwide.
Worldwide. Yeah. Go ahead and move to the next one. So this one here is going to show you, this is actually an illustration out of what was more of like the magical type of things back then. It wasn't so much a tarot deck, but it was a sort of a playing card that went along with that kind of, subtext of, magical stuff. And the circles are prevalent within these two. I've actually blown up the bottom half of it. It's kind of hard to see at the large picture, but you can look down below. He's actually kind of sulking underneath what was most likely representative of a UFO, done up as like a sun god type of situation. And you can see right behind him, he's actually laid down beside a gigantic crop circle.
Sure is.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. The next one, go ahead and flip to the next one. I stopped at 2. I could have sat here and shown you hundreds of these. This is crop circles in alchemy. They were a huge part of alchemy. The basis of alchemy, you start with the earth and you move upward. It almost always, if you look at the illustrations that they've created of it, starts off with some type of a crop circle situation happening on the ground, and then it moves up through the different levels of alchemy. And the first one there, it's kind of hard to tell, but the ring of flowers is creating a full ring underneath. And then it moves up, and then you can see different versions of crop circles laid out in a field above it. And then on the second one there, of course, there's a huge crop circle down, basing the entire picture at the very bottom. And then moving up, there's like different versions of it crawling up both sides of the stack in the middle. You'll find them all over the place. It's a huge part of alchemy. And alchemy goes back how far? I didn't even look it up. It's so far back.
Yeah, forever. Enzo said, I did see swirly like that at the Blythe Intaglios last week. So Enzo is back from his California trip. We can't wait to hear about it. Super excited.
Super cool.
Very cool.
Crop circles are very, very deep. In fact, I found references to where they think some of the circular cave paintings are representative of crop circles that they had come across. Of course, they weren't crop circles. They would have just been grass or, dirt or circles or whatever else. So they go back as far as anything else.
Yeah. Ian said that looks like the Monas hieroglyphica on the left, one of John Dee's creations. Very cool.
Very cool.
Ooh, Enzo said, I spoke with Mark. I'll be on with you this Monday. So yay. Enzo will be on The Fringe with us Monday night.
Yeah. I think we're doing UFO disclosure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like we said, this isn't something that was just happening in Britain. Aboriginal Australians, they've had circular ground markings in their tradition. They called them Bangara grounds. These are ceremonial sites, sacred spaces marked by cleared, circular, compressed earth, and the oral traditions from the communities near Tolly and across coastal Queensland described what the elders called as saucer nests, which were circular impressions in reeds and grasslands. And, it's a phenomenon that has occurred periodically over generations, that go back further than European contact for sure. And, then you've got Peru, you've got the Nazca lines, you've got geoglyphs pressed into the desert plain that are only visible in their correct form from altitude. You have to be in the air to understand what they are. And within the Nazca system, along with the famous spider and the hummingbird and the condor figures, there's these spirals and, the concentric rings. There's the geometric patterns of radical precision that mirror the geometry that we see in the most complex modern crop formations. And the Nazca people created these roughly between 500 BCE and 500 CE. So they are at minimum 1,500 years old. And we still don't entirely understand why they're there. And I don't know if we'll ever know for sure. But what we do know, is what the archaeologists and anthropologists have confirmed is that the geometry of many of these sacred sites around the world, from Nazca to Avebury to the medicine wheels of the North American plains, it's rooted in that same mathematical principles: the circle, the spiral, the pi ratio, the fractal self-similarity that we see encoded in the most complex crop formations of the modern era. So these aren't accidental. These cultures back then knew something about geometry too. They built their sacred cosmology around it.
Yeah. It's so interesting. But as we move on, I think, and let me know, Pam, what you want to do. Should we go over what a crop circle is and what makes a true crop circle, so they know what we're talking about as we go through some of these? Because we're going to start bringing up things like iron ores and silica and expulsion nodes. So I think we should go kind of over what goes into what scientists now say is a true crop circle, what kind of happens in and out of them. So then as we go through some of these instances, because we're going to show you a whole bunch tonight, you'll kind of know what we're talking about as we're going through it. So as Pam said, crop circles have had tons of names over the years. Pteroglyphs, pictograms, agroglyphs, saucer nests, as Pam said. I even found in the old masters paintings where people back then had called them skybird nests. So obviously they're old enough that at that time, when they thought it was just big skybirds that were coming down, that this must be where they nested at, going along with the times. And of course, as we were saying, mini circles don't even happen in crops or grass fields. They happen in dry and muddy earth. They happen in ice. They happen in rocks. They happen in sand. They happen in snow. They even happen underwater.
Which is wild.
It's really cool. So I like a lot of the scientists that study these, they don't call them crop circles. They call them formations, which makes a lot more sense because it's a bit more wide-reaching than crop circles. So, circle aspects, things that make a circle. The first thing that they look for is no sign of entry. You don't want to be seeing the lawnmower ruts moving into the circle. Yeah.
And you'll know right off the bat if it's fake, because you will see from the edge of the road or wherever, you can see the entry points, you can see where people have walked in, you can see where they've drugged the materials, the supplies they used to do it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just note, like, what we're talking about right here is very, very important, because in this day and age, there are more fake crop circles than are real ones now, because artists have kind of taken to this. However, there is a way to tell the difference between the two if you know what to look for. The next thing you want to look for is bent crop stalks or grass, but not broken. You want them laid over nicely and gently with unbroken stalks. You want to see if they have expulsion nodes, which we need to talk about. Did you want to pull up your...
Yeah, let me do that while you're talking. I have to...
Okay.
The end of it here.
You want them with or without stalk stretching, which is what's going to happen if you don't have expulsion nodes. Here's Pam's got it pulled up. Did you want to tell them about that, or do you want me to?
Yeah. No, you can. You can go ahead.
Okay. So I've actually explained this on our show once before, but for anyone who does not remember, maybe wasn't here for that show, expulsion nodes happen when plants are superheated. So when we say nodes, we're talking about that little knuckle that happens on most plants. You see it a lot really on flowers, that little nodule you see on the stalk before it hits the bloom. That's called a little node. And it's actually one of the softest places on a plant. And when these crop circles happen, they know that somehow through microwaves and something else, something happens and it creates a superheating in the area. And it will superheat the moisture within these stalks of grass or plants or whatever it is they're having. And depending on the age of the plant, if it's a nice young plant and it's still very green, that superheating will happen inside and it will stretch it out and cause the plant to gently lay over. If it's an older plant and it's got a little bit more sturdiness to it, it's a little bit drier, it will have an expulsion node. It'll take the softest spot, the knuckle, and the steam will build up inside of there and blow a little fissure hole right through it to release the steam out. And it lays kind of over that way. That steam superheats up inside of there and it goes whoop, and it falls over, and then you have that little expulsion node. Sometimes it gets a little burnt around the edges.
Narrow to the knee.
Yeah. So that's what you're looking for. In the case of like Doug and Dave, when they just tromped it with their pieces of wood, which is what some of these artists do. They like make softer pieces of wood that are sanded out so they lay down a little bit more gently, but they're still kind of crystalline breaking throughout that stem as it lays over, and you can see it especially under a microscope that they were forcefully patted down, unlike where you super steam it from the inside and it just gently kind of flops over, kind of like overheated lettuce. Just
yeah. It's a great way to describe it, actually.
Yeah, wilty lettuce.
Wilty lettuce.
You can also look for braided or woven stalks or grass patterns. This is something else that is truly magical about true crop circles. When you look at them from above, they almost have kind of a movement to them. Like they look like they're moving, and it's because of the way that the grass is laid down. And many of these, not only is the grass laid down in a pattern, but oftentimes you'll find that they're laid in a woven pattern. There'll be like 3, 4, 5 layers of grass or crop, all going in separate directions, completely weaved into each other. Something that they have not been able to figure out. It's not something that Mother Nature, as far as they know, can reproduce. They also look for internal changes to the crops or grass, kind of like the expulsion nodes. They look for that superheating, changes to the soils within the patterns. This happens all the time. They're going to find all sorts of strange chemicals. They found iron ores and silica and things that did not belong in the dirt previously and don't belong to the dirt just outside of the circle. And something else that they have found is that many of these will form near major monuments, bodies of water, and natural aquifers, which is what we mentioned earlier. The natural aquifers are going to come into play, especially in the UK area.
I just popped this new one up here really quick. Jess, you were talking about the fact that, the way that they're laid over. This is a prime example of it. These are all bent 6 inches from the top. They're not bent to the ground like you would have had to use to push them down in a pattern or anything.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's so interesting how it works.
It is.
Yeah, we don't even know how it works, but this is like the bare minimum of what you're going to find. Now, this isn't even going into the weird, like almost paranormally or supernatural, I should say, type of thing that happens. Also, you've got more often than not, lights are recorded going over the top of it before it's found. Animals acting strangely, refusing to go in. Magnetic readings that are off the charts or under the charts. Compasses that spin or refuse to face north inside. Cameras and recording equipment malfunctioning. Strange objects, blurs and lights ruining photos, health complaints while being inside, strange feelings or feelings of euphoria, strange sounds heard and recorded. At one point, I don't even know if we have them anymore, we had some recordings that were taken inside of crop circles. One of them sounded like 1,000 kids screaming all at once.
if you go back, Astonishing Legends did a really good episode on crop circles years ago, and they have recordings that they play on their podcast of it. It's really weird. It's very, very odd sounds. But
Yeah.
yeah, Bets's right. She's talking about the plant anomalies and stuff. And Levengood was one of the guys that did a lot of research into it. He found out some really cool stuff. And, you know, if you really want to find out a lot of good information about the anomalies with the plants, he is the person to look up and to look at his research. Because he's got some great stuff out there. His name is W.C. Levengood. I think it's William Cyril Levengood is his name. Yeah, interesting dude.
Is he part of BLT?
He is, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's
we're going to
not
talk
a-
about BLT a lot tonight, and not
Yeah.
the sandwich. Yeah, W.C. Levengood. We'll give you the information towards the end. There's a couple of really great research groups out there. There's BLT, and then there's the ICCRA.
Mhm.
You go to them for all of your crop circle needs. They're fantastic. We'll talk a little bit more about them later, but we'll definitely give those out and put them up on our Facebook page. So if you want to go do some research, the sites are done up so well, you can literally go state by state and just look at the listings. It's fantastic.
It is. Ian said, I saw a theory recently that crop circles are created using military-grade lasers. Love that the UK military are drawing pretty pictures in the farmers' fields. I'm sure the farmers are thrilled with that, too.
Oh. Yeah.
Funny,
Fun. Lose half their crop and
right?
yeah.
Because they
So-
did have those lasers around in, the 15 and 1600s. So,
Yeah. So, okay, more on, like the attributes of many of these crop circles. Pam's already talked about, the geometrical forms alone, the old mathematical science, to these nearly precise. Some of these are so precise it's insane. People have been studying them for a while. One of the ones that I really like, Gerald S. Hawkins. He's an author and a former head of astronomy at Boston University. He actually studied Stonehenge and discovered that it was a computer that measured and predicted eclipses and showed their interactions with celestial bodies. That was kind of his theory on it. And then he thought, man, I wonder if this has anything to do with crop circles. They look kind of similar. They kind of follow the same mathematical thing. So he started measuring crop circles and found that the measurements match the frequencies of the major scales in music.
mm-hmm.
And he also found Euclid's geometry theorems inside of their measurements too. He's one of the ones that really started diving deep into the mathematical measurements.
I think I can find it. I have a picture that shows the musical scale inside of one of the crop circles. Keep talking. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. But yeah, the mathematical stuff is insane. In fact, where did I put that book at?
There it is.
I told Pam I found this book like after I did my research today, so I'm gonna be looking for some of it. Go ahead and pull it up. Do you got it?
Yeah, it's figure 2 right there. It contains unusual ratchets subdivided into 8 parts of the octave. From this is extracted the Pythagorean labdoma, which is a diagram containing all the harmonics of the musical scale, which is really cool. Ginger has a question. She said, do crops grow back in places where crop circles were previously formed? I believe they do, for the most part, don't they? Because they'd had some really mad farmers in the UK otherwise.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is called the Mandelbrot set, and I apologize. I'm going to do this kind of like old school. I'm just going to show you the picture on my little camera because I found it so late. I didn't have time to do anything with this. This is called the Mandelbrot set. It was found in a field in, I'm sorry, in Cambridgeshire? Sure? Cambridgeshire? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Anywho, it's a gorgeous one. I'm going to show it to you.
That's cool.
Right? The interesting thing about this one, we're talking about math. They named it the Mandelbrot set because Mandelbrot describes a mathematical pattern that was discovered by French mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot in 1979, but it has yet to find a mathematical use. They have this entire working series of mathematic sets, but they've never figured out what they can use it for or what it works for. But they've been setting on it for years. And this one crop circle that cropped up is that set. It's completely it all the way through mathematically, but they still don't know what they will ever use it for. It's a mathematical theorem that has no use. I just thought it was really interesting. Something that we've been setting on, we don't even know what it's for. It suddenly crops up. Oddly enough,
We'll know
crop circles.
someday, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
not anytime soon. Well, hopefully soon, but who knows? Yep. It's interesting though to find out that there's stuff like that out there that are popping up in these, because that really kind of blows that whole ability to poo-poo all of this off, as it's, obviously there are some fakes out there. We know there are. There's an actual group that creates these. It's a group of artists, but they are very vocal about it, and they talk about what they do, but they are also the same people that will say, we've had stuff pop up that we didn't do. We don't know where it came from. We didn't have anything to do with it. So yeah.
So we've got musical formations, we've got mathematical formations. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other formations. We have ghost formations. This is actually a formation that is caused from a leftover from another formation. Sometimes they stick around. They will leave an area more lush than what it had been before, or less lush. They'll be almost just dirt in a place where a former circle had been. Much like the Delphos ring. If you remember us talking about the Delphos ring, like nothing would grow there properly, and what little bit did was like really, really funky.
Yeah.
Also, Rendlesham, we had talked about the fact that the plants grew kind of weird and wonky where it had gone because there was so much iron in it. It actually had turned the dirt rusty.
Yeah.
Where the landing gear had been at in Rendlesham. So same kind of a situation.
Yeah, and you pull back to Ginger's question, do crops grow where crop circles were previously formed? As far as we can tell, crop circles itself, they seem to, but, when you've got places where you've had actual UFOs land, like at Delphos, those are not. As far as I know, nothing has grown back where Delphos was. They ended up covering it up, but still nothing grows through that dirt either.
Yeah, Lord knows what's in there.
Yeah.
The next one we're going to talk about is snow circles, snow prints. The oddity with snow prints is where the snow prints have been will either remain colder or warmer than everything outside of that ring. So you'll find as the snow melts off, either the rings will melt off first and the snow around it remains, or vice versa. As it warms up, the snow outside the rings will melt off, but the ring itself will remain so much cooler than the area around it that the snow will stay in those accumulations for quite a while. Yeah, here's a perfect example. So this is the Hoaxes snow formation. This happened in Russia. And you can see it actually went on for quite a while. I could not post all the pictures that I have of it because it went on for, I think it was like a quarter of a mile square is what it was. But you can see what happened. It's the next day is when the secondary picture was taken in the green. Just about everything melted off except for what was in the circles. It stayed much colder inside. They don't know why that happens. Kind of neat.
Chelsea said, I wonder if there's a premium on crops that grow right after being crop circled. Like, does the corn taste more ozony or something? I don't
I don't
know.
know, but it sure pisses off the farmers.
I'm not sure I'd want to try it, you know?
No.
And Joe said, Snow Circle is very interesting. You could easily tell if someone had walked in to create it. Yeah, you're right. You
Yes.
couldn't hide
Yeah.
that at all.
One of the other interesting things about snow circles that you find it sometime with dirt or sand ones, but they claim that if you see them firsthand, the snow that was inside of the dugout kind of looking part, you would think that it would be piled up on the sides because you know if you put your hand
Yeah.
through snow, it will turn the snow over to the sides and you get that little run of snow. That snow is missing in these. They said it's as if someone came in with a level scoop and gently scooped it up and out and then took it away to where you wouldn't see it. It's just simply missing.
Which, I mean, again, where was the mechanism that they took it away with? You know, what container did they put it in to take it away? There's no markings at
Yes.
all anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And another interesting thing is you would think, well, maybe it was superheated because that's how crop circles are formed. There's some kind of a microwave situation happening where it's superheated really fast. But it doesn't seem to be happening with snow circles. You would think that if it was superheated, that the snow in the area, open to the air where these circles have happened, would have slight glazing to them where they had flash melted and then refroze again. There's nothing of that, just light and fluffy snow all throughout. That doesn't change.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yes.
Yeah. Crop seed growth, the growth of the seeds is pretty much like anything else. Sometimes it grows so much better coming out of the soil from inside of a circle. Sometimes it grows so much worse. They don't know what makes it go either way. Iron glaze. So we're going to talk about iron glaze a little bit tonight. The first time it was really recorded was in 1993. Pilot and researcher Busty Taylor, you're going to hear us talk about him a little bit too, discovered samples of an iron glaze in the center of two circles in Churhill, Wiltshire, England. I'm sorry, Anne. Suggesting intense heat during formation, but yet short enough to not kill the crops. So you're going to start finding a lot of iron glaze, iron ore, iron balls within these. They've really started looking at the soils instead of just the crops themselves and started realizing, hey, there's something going on here.
And if you'll notice in this particular one, I pulled up, just had this iron glaze formation picture to share. You'll see where you can see paths out to it. These were made after the fact. These are once people start coming out to view it, to see what was going on with it. These weren't there when it was first found.
Yeah. This one they actually thought was quite special because it happened during the annual meteor shower. Although I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but
It's kind of interesting. Huh?
yeah. So other odd phenomena that go along with these. The soda lime silica compound, which you've heard me mention before. It basically makes it look like glass. What happens is these crops or the grass will get coated in this extraordinarily fine layer of silica. And it makes the grass and the crops look super duper shiny. Almost glass-like. And that's when you get, and you can see it in this picture here, the circles, how they were formed, they look shiny and glistening and pretty. That's that silica compound they found on top of there. And they found enough silica compound on these crops and in the ground below it to warrant some question marks, because silica compound doesn't come naturally in these areas or even in those amounts. So that's what you're wanting to look for when you're looking for a true crop circle. Does it glisten in the patterns? Because that's really weird silica compound built up on the crops. Iron oxides coating or embedding in the plants. We talked about the iron oxides that happened at Rendlesham. They've happened other places too. Small spheres of pure iron in the soil. Those are the little balls or the pellets you're going to hear us talking about occasionally. Recorded microwave radiation, the superheating that I was talking about. And also strong magnetic pulses, something that they have yet to figure out. Some of them actually have a heartbeat of magnetic pulses for quite a while after they're made. And another interesting thing that they don't talk about a lot, but I think is kind of proves some of these are real. The farmers who find these, like they'll walk in before dawn. You know, farmers are up early. They got to feed the cattle. They got to take care of their stuff. These farmers that find them report hearing a ticking sound when they find them. And it's literally the sounds of the blades of grass or the crops slowly popping back up, making little tick, 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 tick sounds. So you know that they were literally just made right before the farmer got there. If it had been like a whole host of people out there or an artist out there doing their work, I think the artist would have had to have been long gone before any of that happened, or the farmer would have caught him.
Mm-hmm. For sure. You know, you're talking about all the different anomalies that show up, and the radiation and the things being magnetized and different things. There's also this too that you need to keep in mind. The UK Ministry of Defence documents that were released under the Freedom of Information Act, they confirmed that British intelligence was actively surveilling crop circle sites, and not casually, actively. Agents were on the ground. They were doing aerial photography of these. They were filing reports. So, the Ministry of Defense has not explained why they were doing this. And the documents that have been released don't tell us what their conclusions were, if they reached any at all. But they were paying attention closely for years. And, they're not going to just surveil things that are obviously the work of two retired guys with a couple of wooden planks.
Mm-hmm.
Doug and Dave.
Doug and Dave. All right, the last thing I'm going to go over with these crop circles. In 1999 in Canada, they did an entire research project on crop circles. Like they dug deep, like on the soil samples. And they did something called the clay mineral crystallization case study. These geochemists and mineralogists and stuff got together and were taking samples of all of these known crop circles, and had found this huge amount of crystallization in the clay minerals that you don't see in regular surface soils. So like like top, I don't know how many feet of dirt on the earth is our topsoil. And anything below that is the compacted soils and rocks that have, starting to form our underneath area. And you can start to see, layers of the years before us. That's how they, clock stuff when they're doing archaeology, what time period did it come from. So they're looking at just these soil samples, and they find this huge increase of crystallization in the clay minerals. And they start doing the work on it and realize that the amount that they are seeing just inside this crappy surface level soil that the farmers literally turn up every year, it's so loose. The amount of crystallization is akin to what they see in sedimentary rock that's been exposed to thousands of years of heat from the Earth's core.
Yeah.
And the massive pressure of the rocks above is the only thing that forms this particular type of clay crystallization, and it's literally just sitting in the surface dirt just inside of these crop circles. That's the only other place you find it. You find it down in the Earth's core, or you find it in these little tiny crop circles up in, Farmer Ted's, wheat field.
That's funny.
So I think there's something to be said.
I agree. Ian said Wiltshire is the home to UK's largest military training area on Salisbury Plain, a stone's throw from the crop circle territory. That's interesting. Very convenient for them.
He also said Busty's balls. Legend. Nice. Oh, Busty.
Craziness.
All right. Do we want to start throwing some actual like circles at them?
Yeah, let me I know we have one prior to this, but it's a cool one, so I want to make sure that we see it. Oh no, that's the Julia set. Do we want to wait on that one?
We can.
Okay. Let's move forward then. We'll come back to that one because it's pretty interesting. This is a cool one.
Oh my gosh. This one is my favorite. So I love the Julia set because of where it's at, but this one is the one that I think is one of the most amazing ones. So this one happened in August 2001 in Wiltshire, England. This so far is the largest recorded crop circle. Not, it used to be width-wise, it used to be the largest, but just in sheer volume of circles. So they did the measurements on this thing. It has 409 spiling circles, 447 yards across, roughly the size of 4.5 football fields. It was estimated that in order to complete this design in one night, one circle would have to be created every 30 seconds. So from the time that the farmer...
I don't know if Doug and Dave have it in them.
No. Now, another interesting fact about this field is out, of course, in a very rural area with one-lane dirt roads, and the farmer lives literally right by the field. It would have taken, I don't know how many people tromping out in his field to create all of this in time. And if you look, there is no wear and tear on this field. Even if they had walked the tram lines, I should say this. The tram lines are the lines that allow the equipment to come in on the fields, those long lines that you see in fields. It's a place for their tires to go. You've seen, I don't know what they call them in the UK or whatever. We call them, like row hoppers and stuff. The big old huge combines and cutters and stuff that sit up really high so they don't mess with your crops below. And they're, their tires will travel in those marks. Even if they walked up those, could you imagine just, how many people it would have taken? Where would they have parked their cars? That would have tore up the dirt roads.
Yep.
Getting in and out. This one is amazing. And this is actually one of the most famous ones. If you look up crop circles, this will more than likely be in your top 10.
And they would have had, human error. If nothing else, somebody would have screwed something. They would have put one of the, see how the edges where they go a certain way. Somebody would have done one backwards. Something would have gone wrong, especially if you're trying to crank one out every 30 seconds. Somebody's going to make a mistake.
Yeah. A couple more things about this one before we move on, because we have lots of them we can share tonight, so we won't have to stay too long on any one of them. This one is amazing. If you'll notice, the tram marks go through the design. And the reason why you can see that is because the crop that laid over did not lay over the tram lines. It laid perfectly until it got to the tram line, and then they would take a 90-degree angle to get away from it. So whatever created this kept the tram lines running through it. And the next thing is this took up an entire quarter of this man's field. It ruined his crops for the whole year.
And he was hot.
He was mad, and he ended up recovering part of his money that he lost by selling tickets to come in and see it, the poor guy.
Hey, you got to do something.
Which actually garnered them reason to accuse him of having done it on purpose so he could make money. But he didn't make even enough to get back what he lost on the crops. So
yeah, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Man. How rude.
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 All right, you want to do a different one?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is also one of my favorites. I always bring this one up because it's just so amazing. I've actually messed with the settings on the picture so you could see the design better. It wasn't nearly this bold because it's out in the middle of desert.
Enzo
Yeah,
said,
Enzo said,
this isn't mentioned enough that the farmers who own these fields are out quite a bit of money from crop loss. Yeah, they are.
yeah. Not only do they lose the crops that the circles have plowed over, but they lose all the crops that people plow over to go out and look at the dang things.
Yeah.
So it's not something I don't think you would ever do on purpose. Those crops are their livelihood, and a lot of times, they grow them for a half a year. That's what's going to keep their family alive for that next coming year. So, yeah. The Sriyantra formation is what this is. It represents, of course, a Hindu symbol. I'm sure you've all seen it before. And this one popped up in eastern Oregon, so we're going to hit some in the U.S. It's actually on a dry lake bed. This area didn't grow anything for years. It's over 1/4 mile wide, consisted of over 13 miles of lines dug out of the hard pan dirt, 3 inches deep and 10 inches wide, with no dirt gathering on the edges. So it's kind of like the snow ones, where something had scooped it out and then just moved it away somewhere. Who knows to where?
Mm-hmm. Gorgeous.
It was discovered. Yeah. It was discovered by Idaho National Guard pilot L.T. Bill Miller. He found it in a daily flown traffic area for pilots. So he was teaching pilots how to fly, and this was part of their course. They would go over this dry lake bed out and around and then come back. In the course of him taking someone out, he flew over the top of it with a student, wasn't there, came back around again over the top of it within the hour, and there it all was for them to see. So 2 researchers, Don Newman and Alan Decker, investigated and found no signs of tracks or footprints, even though their own left 1/4 inch deep marks on the crusty surface of the dry lake bed. So basically it had that crusty undersurface to it where you could touch it and it would kind of collapse down in on itself. So you could imagine you would definitely see tracks, or even, car tracks to get out to this in the middle of this dry lake bed. You would see footprints going out if there had been. The formation was so large, it only made sense from the height of a few thousand feet for the airplanes. 40 days later, a group of 4 headed by Bill Witherspoon claimed they had done it with a garden plow overnight. However, when asked to recreate it, they were only able to gouge a line about a 1/2 inch deep, and that with great exertion. So a group tried to claim that they did it, and they went out there and couldn't even hardly get a mark in the ground correctly. The line was clumsy, uneven, and left dirt built up on the sides. The formation was monitored for the next couple of years, and this is what I found was the most amazing about this particular circle. Local ranchers claimed there was a sudden increase in rainfall in the small valley the formation was in. There was also suddenly more vegetation growth, increased population of plants and animals, and suddenly there were a few new species not common to the valley.
That's
now
cool.
it is completely green. Yeah.
So it's like it kickstarted something.
Yeah. And just so you all know, this particular formation, this Hindu symbol, is the visual representation of Om. So, when you do your yoga or your meditation, you Om. This is the visual representation of that in Hindu.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw what I pulled up from what Ian said. He said a fella in the UK was found guilty of criminal damage in 2000 for creating crop circles, and he was fined £100.
That's it? Just 100?
It sure didn't fix the crops for the farmer. Oregon,
Yep.
a long way from the home it represents. Yeah.
Yes. You find all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
High formation.
The
Very
pie
cool.
formation. This happened in 2008 in Wiltshire. Um, it's the first time they've ever found pi represented as a geometric symbol, and it actually took them a while to figure it out. This popped up, and they were like, "What does it mean?" It's very pretty, but it's not like your usual crop circle. I mean, you've got your, your few little circles in there and some bands, but it was really something different that they hadn't seen before. And an astrophysicist was the one that actually deciphered it. A retired astrophysicist was looking at it and was like, wait a minute. If you follow the circles around every time you hit a little jag, if you calculate those out, you come up with perfect pi.
It almost looks like
So,
Gallifreyan from Doctor Who.
yeah, it's a cool one.
It is a cool one. Hi, Sylvain.
Hi, Sylvain.
This one I think is fascinating.
Did you want to talk about it? Or do you want me to talk about it?
You've got the notes on it. I know you do. So yeah,
Oh,
you talk
okay.
about it.
Oh, I
just
didn't know
love
if it
it.
was one of the ones you had too.
No.
Okay, so this one is a sand formation. So we're moving away from crops, we're moving away from dirt. Now we're going to talk about some sand. And unfortunately, there is no known photo of this because it happened inside a cave where you couldn't get up over the top of it to take a photo because it was in a low hanging cavern. So this was discovered in Hug Point, Oregon in September 1994. A woman who was actually out on the beach doing her meditation and dowsing. She was dowsing for magnetic lines. I can't say anything about that because I've done that before. She followed her rods, led her to this little cavern at Hug Point. There's a little Hug Point cave. And it took her inside. And when she got inside, she found a whole crop circle dug into the, well, I shouldn't say dug, removed from the sand on the cave floor. She was smart. She knew that no photos could be taken. And in her wisdom, she thought, I should take soil samples. So she went and got bottles out of her car, and she took several samples from different spots inside the circle, and then she took some outside of the circle and a couple from out on the beach, and wrote all of her stuff down and sent them in. And they found that the soil inside the ring, or the sandy soil inside of the ring, had really weird chemical changes that shouldn't be happening inside a cave. These type of chemicals should not have been in there whatsoever. But unfortunately, when they went back to find it, it was all ruined because Hug Point is a very popular tourist area, and it had been walked through. She did say, however, that it was much like a snow circle, like it had simply been scooped up and out, and there was nothing on the edges, just completely dug out.
Which is, I mean, how would she know that? I mean, that crop circles are like that for the most part.
Well, she found out later. I mean, she was working with the labs that she sent it to. She had to find somebody who might be interested in crop circles.
Yeah, I know, but she didn't know it at the time when she
Yeah.
took it, that there was a reason why the dirt
Well,
wasn't piled up.
I've never walked in on a crop circle. Wouldn't that be cool? But I have heard that, I mean, you just have very strange feelings around them. And someone who is doing rod work and looking for lines is already probably very sensitive. And I think she probably sensed that there was something very not right about the cave at that point, and was smart enough to, do her due diligence and get those samples.
Something that we really haven't hit on yet, and I don't know if you were going to later, but I'll bring it up now just in case,
Okay.
is the cymatics and the sound connections.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
Absolutely fascinating. This is one that I love cymatics anyway. But when it comes to crop circles, so back in the 60s, there was a Swiss doctor. He was a natural philosopher. His name was Hans Jenny, and he conducted a series of experiments that he called cymatics. And the principle is really simple. Sound is vibration. Vibration creates pattern. And if you vibrate a medium, such as sand or water, a metal plate coated in fine powder at specific frequencies, it organizes itself into geometric shapes and perfect geometric shapes, not just geometric shapes. It does mandalas, it does spirals, nested rings, complex star patterns. And the higher and more precise the frequency, the more intricate and ordered the pattern becomes. So Jenny published photographs and films of these experiments, and I don't think we've done it on our show, but I know we've done it on Fringe, a whole thing on cymatics. Uh, and we talked a lot about those photographs and the films of the experiments, and they're extraordinary. What you're going to see when you look at them, these are geometric forms that are virtually identical to the plan view geometry of documented crop circles. Identical, not just similar, they're identical. So the implication, we haven't really talked a lot about Freddie Silva yet. You've seen a few pictures that he's sent in or that he has taken with the exploding nodes on the crops themselves. That was Freddie Silva. So basically, this implication, which Freddie Silva developed extensively in his work on crop formations, is this: that if a sufficiently powerful and sufficiently focused sound wave, specifically an infrasound wave, below the threshold of human hearing, were directed at ground level at a field of grain, it could theoretically organize that grain into a geometric pattern, which would reflect the frequency of the sound, the way the sand organizes on a Chaldani plate. But instead of sand, it's grain. Instead of a laboratory, it's in a field kind of thing. So, this sound connection, it doesn't end in that theory, though. You've got witnesses. You've got multiple independent, credible witnesses at multiple locations over decades. They've reported hearing sound before formations were discovered, like Jess was talking about earlier. It's a low hum. It's a trilling sound. It's almost mechanical sometimes, almost that of an insect. Sometimes it's described as resembling cicadas or grasshoppers, but not quite. They're just a little wrong somehow. They're a little too precise, a little too steady. And then you've got Colin Andrews, which I don't know if we've really brought him up yet, but he's a British electrical engineer who he became one of the most dedicated crop circle researchers of the late 80s. He recorded the anomalous sounds inside the formations in 1989 that we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. On multiple recordings in multiple formations, he got this trilling rhythmic sound with no clear biological source. So when these recordings were analyzed, one explanation that was offered was the grasshopper warbler, which is a British bird that has this unusual trilling call. And Andrews disputes this completely. He said the recordings were made at sites and at times that were inconsistent with that bird's behavior, and that the sound appears across multiple unrelated recordings in multiple locations, and that the grasshopper warbler explanation required accepting an unlikely coincidence of multiple independent misidentifications at the most scientifically interesting sites. He didn't buy it. And I'm not sure I buy that either, But Freddie Silva did make a point that I find genuinely interesting, that the sacred sites of ancient Britain, like Avebury, Stonehenge, the Rollright stones, these are all positioned, when you map against the geological and topographical data, they are positioned on nodes of what acoustic researchers all call Earth's infrasound grid, which is very cool. You've got your standing waves of low frequency sound that propagate through the Earth's crust and into the atmosphere. Now, ancients may not have had the physics language to talk about it, but they apparently knew where the hum was the loudest, right? So that's where they built their temples, and they marked those spots as sacred. And those spots are also where most of the crop formations appear in the area. So pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah. One of the ways that they could be made, there's a handful of theories, which include all sorts of crazy stuff, like the aquifers.
Yeah.
We could actually talk about that. Where's my aquifer stuff? I have so much information.
I know. I'm just like flipping through stuff because I knew there was a picture that I wanted to bring up in regards to that too. I can't remember what it was. Oh, here it is. Where is that? Number 26. I'm trying to be organized tonight and it's not working out real great. Here we go. Okay, number 26. So we're talking about cymatics. And if you look at these two these two photos, the tetrahedron crop glyph on the left from Barbary Castle from 1991, and you look at the sound frequency that was captured in liquid on the right, it's a cymatic image. This really kind of resembles the center of that Barbary crop glyph. Um,
Yeah.
and that's all made
That
with sound.
yeah, that one there, just a little bit more on that one. We might as well do it while we have it pulled up here. Um, this was actually heard by the warden of the castle. He was up when this happened. It happened at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, and he said the most colossal roar coupled with a pulsing hum. He said it sounded like 100 low-flying planes just going over the top, and this is what got left behind. They said it just reverberated through your chest. So I would assume that if it can do that, you can feel it like in your chest and in your,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Very cool. Let me move that to. Sorry, we never not talk. Look at us both looking for notes here to talk about.
Well, okay. Well, why we're talking about theories about how they think they're formed. This one I think is very probably close to maybe a part. Like maybe it's a part of it, or maybe it's the whole way it's formed. They also have the aquifer theory, which we can talk about a little bit. They estimate that about 93 to 98% of formations actually form over natural aquifers. They're not sure why. But the reason why they think that the UK is so heavy in crop circles is because, of course, the UK is on top of one gigantic aquifer, actually. And the UK has very chalky soils. In fact, so chalky in some places, they create their intaglios and stuff that way. They pull that top level of soil off, and they have chalk underneath. So you have those beautiful white intaglios all over the countryside. So what they think is that the aquifers in the summer, when it gets really droughty, kind of drain down through that chalky soil. It actually causes a little bit of an electrical charge, believe it or not. That chalky, dry soil and the receding of the water causes kind of a chemical electrical charge to happen. And many of the farmers that get these crop circles report that the crop circles happen at these distinct, like very dry times when, this chalk stuff becomes more, up towards the surface. So they think that maybe that has something to do with it. And that may have something to do with the cymatics too. Like maybe the cymatics change at this time. That the aquifers drop and the chalk becomes electrified a little bit from the reaction of it. I don't know.
Cool.
There's also theories about it being ionospheric plasma that comes down, which I've never really bought into completely, but it may all three play into making these. I don't know.
Yeah, Ian, you're bringing up the plasma vortex theory kind of thing. That's Dr. Terrence Meaden that came up with that one. And it's an interesting one. But yeah, I don't know.
I like Mark's theory. We should have Mark on here. Mark's theory is that they're signs for the other aliens. Don't come here. These people are weird. Take that left turn at Albuquerque and get out.
That's funny. Yeah. So Dr. Meaden, he was a British atmospheric physicist, and he founded the Tornado and Storm Research Organization in the UK. It's a real organization. It's legit. He's not, a goofball. He's actually a credentialed scientist. But he looked into the crop circle phenomenon, and like Jess said, he came up with the plasma vortex theory. And that idea is under certain meteorological conditions, particularly in areas where the topography creates this unusual airflow patterns, which describes the chalk downs in Wiltshire and Hampshire exactly. You've got a rotating column of electrified air that can form, and a plasma, which is a plasma vortex. So think about it as a very organized, supercharged whirlwind. The ionization within the vortex would explain the reported light phenomena, the glowing balls. So if you've got that electrical discharge going off, the rotation would explain the swirling lay of the plants. The electromagnetic energy within the vortex would explain the biological anomalies that Levengood found. So, Beaton's theory had a little bit of merit for the earlier, simpler formations, the single circles, the small clusters. It's the ones that appeared near Avebury and Silbury Hill in the mid-70s. Yeah, I could see it more plausible with those, but when you get to the more intricate ones, the complex ones, that's where, plasma vortices can make circles. They can't make a fractal, like the Julia set that we'll talk about here in a little bit, which is 151 precisely placed, individually measured circles arranged in perfect mathematical progression. They can't make a formation encoding the digits of pi, which we just looked at a little bit ago, or a depiction of the Mandelbrot set, or a formation that appears to be a response to a message humanity sent into space in 1974 that we'll show you here in a little bit too. So yeah, could it have something to do with the earlier ones? Possibly, but not all of them, and definitely not the intricate ones.
Yeah.
Ian said, to be fair, people in Wiltshire are weird.
Last but not least, I touched on the alien side of it a little bit. A lot of people think that these are either, say alien, but, some other kind of a life form that's a little bit above us. They did some experiments in the Alton Barnes area during the early 90s when the big, huge flap was happening. It just for you all to know, the UK in the early 90s, holy cow. I used to have the numbers. I don't know where they are, but it was an ungodly amount of crop circles happening during the early 90s in that area. So much so that they started doing experiments because they were getting so many. They could literally almost talk with them, they thought. They did a formation experiment in July 1991 where an entire group of people got together who really believed in crop circles, and they did like a hive mind experiment. They got together and they actually went out into an empty field and they tromped out with their own feet. They were purposely making a crop formation, and they spelled out "talk to us" while they visualized in their heads, thinking outward into the universe and, out into the ether, we want to talk to you, talk to us. And they tromped this out in the field. And then came back the next day, they slept overnight, came back the next day, hoping that there would be some kind of an answer in the field with them. But there was not. And they were actually pretty sad until later on the day, a farmer next door to this came by and was like, "Hey, y'all, there's something out in my field." And they went and checked it out. And what they found, and there's no picture of this, unfortunately. I'm sure there is one somewhere, but I didn't find it. It had some strange symbols that looked a little bit like Hebrew and a little bit like some other stuff. It was like a mishmash of some strangeness. And they put it out into the world and was like, is there anyone who can comprehend this, who can read this? And they had 4 people get back with them. 4 people who were very strong in multiple languages. They had a gentleman named Gerald Hawkins come back who was an expert in Latin, who said, "I am against acts of cunning." They had another gentleman named Simon Burton, who was also very big in Latin, said, "I have hidden a present." There was a gentleman named Michael Green who was good at Hebrew, and he saw the Creator wise and loving. And another gentleman named Robert Borman, who also said it was Hebrew, said it said a new breed of people. But either way you put it, very strange.
Yeah.
Later on in 1992, they did a second one, um, where they brought people in together and just simply meditated. And while there, 5 of these people claimed that they had this pattern kind of pop up in their heads, which was later verified. They had them all draw them down separately and then brought them back together again. Same pattern that they were all seeing in their head. And walked away. That's all that they did. But found out a couple of days later that 2 fields over, that same pattern had popped up in a farmer's field. So I thought that one was really interesting.
And that's just wild.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that happening? While we're on the topic of communication, let me switch to, I want to talk a little bit about the Arecibo too, and what it was. So the Arecibo message, that was humanity's first deliberate broadcast to the stars. And some researchers argue that it was actually answered by a formation that appeared in a field near the Chilbolton radio telescope in 2001. And the formation included what appeared to be a modified version of the Arecibo message format with alterations to the data fields that implied there was a non-human sender. So, this comes up because when we were talking about the plasma vortex, it didn't write that, but whoever did write the Chilbolton glyph, they knew what we wrote first in order to be able to so closely mirror it back to us. So if you look at this picture that I have up here on the right-hand side, you'll see the original Arecibo message. When it was sent, obviously, it's zeros and ones. It didn't have all the different colors. The colors are on here just to illustrate the different symbols that came through, right? So you can see there's like a man, the shape of a man, and there's some different things. And then if you look at the Chilbolton glyph over on the left, you can see it looks very close to the same. The big difference on it is if you look at the figure of the man, the head is grossly,
Very bulbous.
Yeah, very bulbous. He looks like a gray alien kind of thing. It's got that bulbous head on it. And then if you look at the composite in the middle, they've overlaid the original Arecibo message on top of the Chilbolton glyph to show how closely they do resemble each other. But yeah, that's the big difference in there. And I think if I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say that the Chilbolton glyph also says something about silica, because the original Arecibo has the makeup of humans and things like that, DNA. And the Chilbolton glyph included things like silica, which is not a part of the human DNA. So pretty interesting, though, and it's widely held to be a fake. Is it? I don't know if it is or not. I think it's interesting, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ian said a conclusive message from higher beings. Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's
So where did they
nice,
come
yeah.
from? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's do some US ones. Go to number 12.
Okay.
So you talk a lot about the UK, of course, because this is really the nesting spot for a lot of these crop circles, but they happen all over the world. And I always think it's fun that people living in the US are like, oh, crop circles don't happen here. They most definitely happen here. We just tend to keep a little bit more quiet about them. Largely because, especially where these happen out are in rural farming communities where if, in the Bible Belt, you don't talk about this kind of stuff. So, I want to touch on a few of them in the US. I'm not going to do a ton, but enough that you can really see that they happen. This one here was a very important one that happened in 2009 in Dublin, Ohio. This one is called the wave formation. This one was created in a circle formation, and the flow pattern undulates up and down like ocean waves. Is the first time that they found it. So it's not, you can kind of see it in the grass. It looks almost choppy, but it looks choppy because there's different sections of grass that are literally waving up and down like a dolphin would flow up and down. and it's done up mathematically. The waves are a particular height and they dip at a particular, it's all the same. That goes around and around and around and around.
That's cool.
Yeah. In 2009, not that long ago.
No.
Yeah. If you go to 13, this one is weird. This is the Delaplane Formation out of Arkansas. It happened June 2007. This happened in wheat, and it's very, very big. The outer ring is about 130 feet across. The farmer reported unusual animal behavior and complete irrigation system battery failure. The crop was severely stunted due to bad drought, and the stalks were only about 14 inches tall, and this thing popped up inside of it. And this is one of the ones that stuck around, for a number of years afterwards. It literally stunted the growth of everything within that ring. It was terrible.
That's wild.
Yeah. The Noble Circles. This happened in Noble, Arkansas, June 7th, 2003. This one is very famous, too. It happened near a small cemetery, large crescent half moons in a spiral pattern with 4 small circles. Soil samples showed magnetic levels 9 times higher than the soil outside of it. This is one of the ones where you couldn't even get in near it with a compass. And it's, I've heard, still that way to this day. That area is still weird with the magnetics.
It is. Shaw said that last one that we had up looked like the triple moon symbol. It does, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Very cool. Let's see what we have next. Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
Yeah, the peach orchards. So this one is the one I think we've talked about it on here before, probably in notebooks. This one happened in Arkansas, June 2003. The bicycle, they call it the bicycle wheel sprocket. It's 100 feet wide. And it was made the exact same night as the Noble Circle. So they appeared at the same time. It's made of 3 layers of grass braided, one right after the other. It's the first time they had seen where they were braided. They weren't just woven. It was literally braided into itself like you would braid a woman's hair.
That's cool.
Yeah. And this is the one where they found the tiny bird's nest still attached to the stalk of grass. Sure. So this is something that we have not talked about yet tonight. They'll often find that if there is something inside the circle that's not a part of the crop or the grass or the dirt or whatever this is made of, it will go untouched. And inside this particular one, towards the center of the bicycle wheel, they found a blade of grass sticking up, completely untouched. And at the top of that was a little hummingbird's nest with a little egg in it, completely untouched. Everything else around of it was laid completely flat. Really? They also found this later on. I have it here somewhere. I'll probably run across it. There was another circle made in Missouri where there was naturally growing clover inside of the crop. The farmer had planted his crops in, but some clover kind of took over in some areas. And wherever the clover was completely fine and untouched. And the crop circle wove in between and out and around the clover so that it wasn't touched.
That's wild. I remember that story. That's wild. Yeah. Ian said, I imagine the U.S. circles are more unexplained simply because of the massive rural areas away from population density. Yeah, I'm sure that plays a lot into it. And especially the Bible Belt around, especially through the Midwest, they're not going to talk about stuff if they don't have to. Yeah. So, I don't know. Pretty wild. And this one is actually, isn't the one, didn't we drive by this place on the way to
this is Pam and I's kind of circle. I mean, it wasn't there when we went past, but we were so excited to be going near the area. This one is its own enigma. So, and unfortunately, this is the only picture there is of it, but it was way bigger than this. This one is called the growing formation. And the reason that is because it appeared and then it continued to grow over the next couple of days, literally in front of the scientists' eyes that came in to review it and take measurements and stuff. So this happened in Odessa, Missouri, June 21st, 1990. It happened in a sorghum field, if you're interested. It was originally, when they first found it, 50 feet across. And over the course of several days, it grew and mutated in shape until it was 125 feet across with a 75-foot rectangular pathway that went off the side of it. A second area shaped like a mushroom was found in the same field just nearby a couple of days later. It may have actually been forming at the same time. They just had not found it yet. The most amazing part of this story isn't really even the circle itself or the fact that it kept growing. It was found by a trucker who had gone off highway. He was driving a big rig on a highway about, I think it was like 10 minutes away from this area. And he just suddenly felt the urge to go off the highway. He said he couldn't explain. He wasn't even from our area. He was just like, I felt like I just needed to get off the road. And he just turned onto one of the rural roads off the highway and drove for a while. And he could see it because he was up high enough in the cab of his truck. Anybody else down below that wouldn't have been able to see that out in the field, but he looked over and he saw it and he reported it to the farmhouse that was right there. And that is how they found it. Just some guy. Yeah. But this continued to grow. They called professionals out. They started looking at it. They started measuring it. And there is a story. It was a gentleman and a lady. They came out in the morning. They took measurements. They went into town to have some lunch. And then they were going to come back and finish up. And when they got back, it had grown several more feet. So they remeasured it and redid everything and decided to come back the next day and finish up. And when they came back, it was even bigger. So they got to remeasure it out again. And they did this for the next few days.
That's wild.
Yeah.
We talked about this one. Let's switch to the dumbbell formation.
Yeah. So the dumbbell is in Kansas. Yep. This one happened June 16th, 1995 in McPherson County in Inman, Kansas. If you're from the Kansas area, you know Inman, Kansas. They call it the dumbbell formation because it literally looks like a dumbbell. Witness reported seeing 8 to 9 balls of light hovering 10 feet off the ground just before finding the circles. This one also had horrible electromagnetic properties inside of it that wouldn't allow for recording equipment to go inside or even, basic electronics.
Enzo said a dumbbell in Kansas. I've been called worse. Yeah, that was a pretty cool one.
This one here, I wanted to throw in some really, really new ones so you guys could see that these are still happening all over the place, all of the time. This one is the Culliford Formation. This one happened May 19th, 2025. Yeah. The next one.
That's just a little over a year ago.
Yeah. The next one happened in...
Reading back. There we go.
This one happened in Littleton Hill, Somerton, Somerset, UK. In barley and wheat. It happened July 6, 2025. So not that long ago.
Chelsea said Inman, the same place where Sinkhole Sam is from. Yep, that would be him.
Maybe he helped make it.
Maybe so.
And this last one here I have is happened in Edmund Hill, Somerset, UK, June 15th, 2025, and happened in Barley. There's actually several sites if you're interested, if you want to see all the latest ones that happen. There's several sites on the internet you can go to. Just type in last seen crop circles and then your area, UK or US or whatever. There's several sites that cover these and you can literally go back and see from the latest one all the way back, fantastic work, because people are so really into crop circles now. But hopefully, after what Pam and I have told you, you'll know the difference between artist-made ones, which I think are pretty obvious, and true crop circles.
So I do have this one last one that I wanted to bring up. Now, this one was, it showed up. Oh my gosh, I'm losing the name of it. Do you remember? Is it? Oh, I just went blank. Is it Oscars?
Oh, yeah.
Is that the name of
so.
it? Okay. Oscar's Castle. This is where this crop circle was from. And what's really interesting about this particular one is the fact that John Whaley took some footage. Of course, you got to remember this is 1996 when he shot this footage. So not the greatest footage, but you can definitely see what is going on. And I actually found the video, which I was really surprised about. So let me switch screens here real quick and I'll pull it up. He caught video of it actually being created at the time it was formed. And you can see, can you see it, Jess? Because it takes the screen out for me.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It's up.
So I'll hit play on there. And you could see the formation as it occurs, but you can see these orbs flying around over it at the time. And it's going to play again to show it again.
Yeah, watch them pop up underneath. Like, don't watch the lights, watch the ground.
And then there it is, the Oliver's Castle.
Yeah.
I'll hit it one more time.
Yeah, we'll play it again. Watch the ground, not the lights. And this happened this is not recent. This isn't, like the time of AI where anyone could recreate this.
Yeah, this is from 1996.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about the footage. I've never seen it, just on a whim. I decided to see if I could find it, if it was out there anywhere. And sure enough, there it was.
Yeah.
So.
Well, since we're talking about ones that have been seen while they were being made, we should go back and do the Julia set now.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I did not want to get off of here before we did that particular one. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Yes.
Yeah. The Julia set. It's actually, I would consider it the most famous crop circle ever. If you type in crop circle, this is what pops up first. If you get a coffee mug with a crop circle, this is the crop circle that's on the coffee mug. Yeah. So the Julia set, it's happened in Wiltshire in July 1996. It's based on mathematical fractals. This one happened in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
It was discovered by Busty Taylor, our famous crop circle pilot. Another pilot had flown over the same area just 45 minutes before and had seen no pattern there. Now, the interesting thing about the Julia set, besides the fact that it came right out in the broad daylight, not only did it come out in broad daylight, it happened while tourists were there watching it live. And the reason why there was tourists there was because it's literally right across the road from Stonehenge. And the second picture there, I've shown you where Stonehenge is up the top. That little circle area, that Stonehenge, that is right where it happened. Literally right across the road. Mm-hmm. Live in front of people.
So cool.
Yeah. And I always like reading this, and I'm going to give a disclaimer before I read it. One of the eyewitnesses gave accounts, and I have one of them here. I'm going to read it verbatim, and she was a little flabbergasted as she was giving her eyewitness account. So it sounds kind of weird, but I'm going to read it just how she said it. She said, there was a mist about 2 to 3 feet off the ground, and it was spinning around and around and around. And on the ground, a circular shape started appearing, which seemed to get bigger. And then the mist got bigger, and then it swirled faster. The mist wasn't anything from the ground, as there was clear space between the ground and the mist. There was no wind and no dust. It was the strangest thing I have ever seen. And it was a calm summer's day. So what they were seeing, they said that it was a clear summer's day. They're all, wandering around Stonehenge and awe of this thing. And they notice off in the field across this road, this really weird mist that settled down in there, which didn't make sense because it was a summer's day. There shouldn't have been mist. And they watched it and they realized that the mist was swirling in this huge circle, and they watched it go faster and faster, and it was just a couple of feet off the ground. So there was a space between the bank of fog or whatever you want to call it and the ground, and it spun and it spun and it spun, and then it dissipated, and underneath of it was suddenly this.
So cool.
So super cool. Right in front of all those people. They said there were dozens and dozens of people at Stonehenge at that time when it happened.
So not only do you have people on the ground seeing this mist and seeing this formation occur, you've got two different pilots that were in the air. One that was through there just 45 minutes prior, and there was nothing there. And then when coming back through that, saw it and was documented it when he came through that it was there. Very cool.
Yeah. Now, interesting to note here, I left this for the Julia set because this is where it starts to make a lot of sense. They have reported so many crop circles that happen near these big epicenter areas where there's megalithic type leftovers that we love to flock to. Mm-hmm. And around these areas where they've had all of these crop circles happen near these megalithic areas, they have found remnants of old seed, crop seed. Yeah. And what they have figured out, or they think has happened, is that over the years, the people in these communities have learned that their seeds will do so much better if they've been in these areas where there's been high concentrations of crop circle activity. The plants will grow way better if their seeds have come out of these areas. So they think what they would use these places for, like Stonehenge and stuff, one of the things that they use them for, not the only reason, would be to bring their seeds for the year and allow them to sit within the
charge them.
Yeah, they were charging their seeds. They find them all over the places. They even find them at like Pam said, they would often put churches and stuff on these areas. Often on ley lines, to supercharge their seeds so that they would get fantastic growth out of their plants for the coming year. So you'll also see megalithic structures near these areas, and along with that, lots of old seed that the people have brought in. So super interesting, I think.
It is. Fascinating stuff. Crop circles, yeah. I know that they're kind of... some people think of them as a run-of-the-mill paranormal thing, whatever. I think they're fascinating. I think there's too many people are poo-poo them, Yeah, Enzo, like charging your crystals. Yeah, they were charging their seed. Yeah. I think they're endlessly fascinating. And I think it's cool how they started out just circles. And it's like the more that we as humans have learned geometry and physics, and as our ability to understand these things has grown, these have grown along with us. It's like the further they go along, the more intricate they get mathematically, and it's like we can understand it as we go along. But like Jess said, there's at least one out there that we don't get the math. We understand it's math, but we don't understand what the math does on one of the crop circles. So it's just neat. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So interesting. I don't know. Yep. We were just nerds.
I'm totally nerding out right now. So yeah. This is why this is how Bordertown Strange became to be, because we nerd out all the time.
Yeah. And we've had crop circles happen near us. They happen a lot in the Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas area. A whole lot up into Nebraska, all over the place. Now would be a really great time to bring up the BLT. Let me pull up the information on it so I get it to you correctly. So if you're interested in this stuff and you really want to see like the firsthand accounts and the research that goes underneath some of these things because they're highly researched, believe it or not. You can go to www.bltresearch.com. It was started by John Burke, W.C. Levengood, and Nancy Talbot, like the three big names in crop circles. They started like digging into the crop circles and even the ones that were happening as they were coming out. They did like the research on them. They measured them. They did the soil sampling, really deep dove it. The reason why I like BLT so much is because you can literally see they update it. They're constantly like going back to those older ones and like confirming this and working on that, or if they found out something new, they'll go back and check out those old ones, and they'll literally tell you if they figured out that it was a fake one. They don't hold back. They're like, yes, this one was fake, this one got us, this is why. As many pictures as they can get in there, their measurements, even the minutia of the scientific side of things, which eats away at my brain. I can't stand reading that stuff. But if you're interested in that, that's all there. You can also go to the ICCRA, which is the Independent Crop Circle Researchers Association. I just throw a .com on the end of that, ICCRA.com, and you'll pull up all their information. They do basically the same thing too. The thing that I like about it, the ICCRA, is that you can literally go state by state or through Europe, through different sections, and it'll give you in order that they happened all the ones that they have listed, and you can click into each one of them. I like it because that's how I get like my Arkansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Nebraska ones. Anytime a new one pops up, it gets thrown up at the top. You just
It's almost like the BFRO except for crop circles. I think that may have an org on the end of it. It might be a .org.
Oh, a .org.
Yeah.
Just type in ICCRA. It'll come up in your browser, whichever browser you're using. Fantastic stuff. The photos alone will blow your mind.
Yeah,
and
there's tons.
They do a fantastic job of getting firsthand experiencers, their stuff up there, so you kind of get it, first place. How did they see it? How did it happen? What time did it happen? It's really great stuff.
It is so good.
If you're interested at all, love it. But I'm a nerd.
You're in good company for sure.
But yeah, so many interesting ones. I have tons of them here that we didn't even have pictures for, which I'm not going to bother going over because we're getting late on time. But yeah, if you want to deep dive it even further, I have tons of them that have like Men in Black. They almost go UFO side of things. You got Men in Black and Strange Happenings. There's even several that have Mothman that show up near it. You've got like high-strangeness stuff happening around them. It runs the gamut because it's all connected.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. Just isn't kidding. Because before we even started, we were like, how are we going to... I was like, where do you stop? I have 45 pages of notes, y'all, for tonight's show. And I'm sure Jess has at least that many and probably a whole lot more.
I do. And I'm going to make a confession. Pam already knows because she's got a copy of it. I love this phenomena so much. I wrote my own paper on it.
She did, yeah. It's really good paper, too.
It's just the basics. It's like my basic notes that I got together and kind of put it in some kind of a formation that would make sense to me with some, like, not that you care. I don't know why I'm going on about this. Yeah,
because it's that fascinating. It is that fascinating of a subject. This was one of the very first things that we tackled when, we really started doing podcasts. I know I think you did that one with Big Willie, didn't you? And
I did. We did it for the UFO Garage podcast, I believe. Go look up UFO Garage podcast. It would have been like
5-6 years ago.
3, 4, 5 years ago, sometime in there. But you can see it. We covered for them for a little while. They had to be off show, but they wanted to keep going. So it was Big Willie and Jess for a little bit, and we did a lot on crop circles and CERN and stuff. It was super fun. But yeah, if you want some hilarity, go watch that, because him and I together is
it's pretty good.
Funny.
And
It
so
was
said,
something.
haha, you always over research, but you always have the info for the show. That's why we love you. Aw.
Aw,
Chelsea said,
we love you
surprise, this
guys
doesn't
too.
have 30 plus notebooks on it.
Thank
Wahaha.
you, but not 30, I don't think.
Not yet. And Ginger said, that's really cool. It is. It's very cool. It's awesome. And we will definitely work on getting our show notes up on Facebook. It'll be on our website too. So, yay. Super
Yeah.
excited. I'm just as
All
excited.
right.
We're at the end of the show, and I'm just as excited about the subject as I was before we started.
I know it's a fun topic.
It is.
And like I said, they're still happening, so there's a never-ending supply of them to go over. Just go check out some. Just type it in and just go check them out. Just pull up a page of the photos of them. Like go to just photos and just look. You can tell after you look for about 2 minutes what's an artist rendition and what is a true crop circle. You'll be able to pick it up pretty soon. There is just some awe-inspiring stuff out there. Go take a look.
It's like a kindergartner's drawing as opposed to, a great artist.
Well, I mean, and some of them are ridiculous. Like there's pictures of like men in Silicon Valley with like a chip for an ear and stuff. You're like, that was an artist that did that. But,
for sure.
Anywho.
For
All right,
sure.
is it time?
It is time.
Okay, everybody, you know what you're doing. Notebooks, pick a page 1 through 100, notebook 1 through 5, and I'll read whatever is on it. Dear Lord. I have no idea. I just grabbed.
Always a good time, though.
It looks like I got some notebooks here with Hellier stuff.
Ooh, nice.
Egyptians in the U.S., Vikings, Nephilim.
Speaking of, Hellier 3 is getting closer every day. They are thinking it will be out before the end of the year.
Yeah, excitement.
So excited. Okay, Ginger, notebook 3, page 14, please.
All right, I'm getting it pulled up right now.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Hellier. And if you guys, if you follow Greg and Dana Newkirk, they actually have started a new Discord mixer. They do it once a month. And we didn't know how it was going to work at first because Discord does have the voice channels. So what they have landed on, and it's freaking fantastic, is they've started doing voice channels where they bring people in, and it's like coast to coast AM where you would call in. So, they have a queue of listeners or, of callers that you can go in and actually talk to them. And it's such a good time. Yeah, I'm a nerd for that too. So fun stuff.
All right, Ginger's page is on Frank and Carol in Liverpool, and I think this is part of this is the Bold Street slips.
Cool.
So missing time or time slip, depending on which one this is, because there's tons of them. Bold Street in Liverpool has like handfuls and handfuls of time slip stories. This is a gentleman named Frank. He set off with his wife to go shopping in Liverpool in 1996. His wife decided that she wanted to go and buy a book at Waterstones, the large bookstore, and they started to walk towards the area of the shop. As they approached Bold Street, Frank decided to go to another shop first, but bumped into a friend and stopped to chat in the street. His wife went ahead without him. A few moments later, Frank said goodbye, visited his shop, and turned to go back to meet his wife. After reaching Bold Street, he headed on towards the bookstore. As he approached, he glanced up and was surprised to see the name Cripps above the door. As he was about to cross over to see what was going on, a van swept past him with the name Cardin's on the side. The van driver honked his old-fashioned horn and drove past. Looking around, Frank suddenly realized that things were not quite what they should be. He looked at the cars driving past and realized that they were all old-fashioned vehicles, such as people would drive back in the 50s and 60s. And then he noticed the people. Men were wearing hats and macks, and the women were dressed in headscarves, full skirts, and had old-fashioned hairstyles, such as women wore just after the war. By this time, Frank was beginning to feel slightly freaked out. He carried on, crossing the road, and headed towards the store. As he got closer, he noticed through the window handbags, shoes, and umbrellas. Suddenly, he saw a young woman standing, looking totally bemused, up at the shop sign. She was wearing modern clothes, and as she saw him approaching, she smiled at him. Frank went into the shop, closely followed by the young women. When they entered, he was surprised and pleased to see that it had indeed turned back into a bookshop. The young woman smiled, shook her head, and said, "Well, that was strange. I thought it was a new clothes shop." Then she walked away, looking extremely puzzled. This may sound an unlikely tale, but the odd thing about it is that Frank was in fact a former police officer who was used to dealing in facts and definitely wasn't the type of person who would believe in the paranormal. Frank never stopped talking about it. Was it a time slip? Evidently, Cripps was a women's shop that sold clothes and other goods, and Cardin's was also a well-known Liverpool firm that owned vans around the time Frank had found himself in.
That's cool.
So, yeah, one of the Bold Street slips. This. If you're interested in time slips, check out Bold Street, because there are a dozen or more stories that come from there, and some of them very recently. So,
yeah, at least. There's some cool ones. Yeah. The next one is Chelsea with book 4, page 11, the 411, if you will. Nicely played, Chelsea.
Nice.
While you're pulling that up, Enzo said, I had someone ask if I was familiar with the Newkirks a few days ago. I showed them our group photo and they fell out laughing.
We are a little familiar. This one is on, I think it was on the Fringe. Pam and I and Mark and maybe Phil were talking about things that predicted the future. It was like we were talking about Simpsons episodes and other things in social media and stuff that accidentally or maybe knowingly foretold of things that were happening in the future. And this page was on the Illuminati card game called the New World Order. So it was released in 1994. It is now out of print, but you can go online and see photos of the cards from it, and they are freakier than hell, let me tell you. Just go look them up, because you're going to be shocked what was in them. It has become notoriously famous for predicting major events. It was released by Steve Jackson Games and casts the players as puppet masters who pursue world domination on behalf of their chosen mythic secret society. While the secret societies are made up, the artwork on the various playing cards are something else, it seems. On the terrorist nuke card, it features an explosion halfway up one of two towers. It looks very much like 9/11. The Pentagon card features an explosion at the Pentagon, much like 9/11. The Charismatic Leader card features a man much like Trump in front of a large crowd. It looks exactly like Trump, actually. The Epidemic card features a large quarantine with a mask, glove, needles, and bottles, kind of like COVID. It shows fencing around the White House, shielding the president from civil unrest, and a scene seen during the Black Lives Matter demonstration. And it goes on and on and on. The cards are just crazy. Go look at them. Go look them up. It's called the New World Order game. It was released in 1994. You can go and see pictures of the cards, and they're nuts.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. What do we have next?
Nope. Enzo with notebook 1, page 49, please.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty wild stuff. Oh, while you're digging that up, I will have to post this on Facebook. So a couple of days ago, I was watching a old Mary Tyler Moore episode from February of 1972. And Ted, which was Ted Baxter, which, he was the newscaster, and he was very full of himself. he says something about, oh, is he handsomer than me? And they were like, no, no. You know, Murray's like, no, no, you're the handsomest, Ted. And he walks away and he turns to Lou and he goes, I just feel like a mirror, mirror, you know, which, you know, according to Mandela's, it's supposed to be magic mirror, not mirror, mirror. But in 1972, they were definitely saying mirror, mirror.
Yes. Mandela's all over.
Mm-hmm.
This is a listing of kind of fae-like changelings and folklore. That's what's listed on this page.
Nice.
The first one is the Duende, Latino folklore, impish children that still children. The Mylings, which are Scandinavian, the dark souls of children abandoned and left to die. They wander the earth trying to convince people to take them in. So these are like the scary little kid creatures you don't want to deal with. The changelings from the Unseelie Court of Fairies from Celtic lore. Parents would check the eyes of their newborn children to make sure it hadn't been switched with the changeling, who would have completely black eyes. And the Iroquois Indians, the American Indians, their oldest story is shown in a carving at a 13,500-year-old carving of an Urfa man found at Göbekli Tepe, depicted with obsidian eyes. Viewers of the artifact report feeling scared and unsettled. This is part of the BEK tradition, children, black-eyed children. Yes. Yeah, but that's kind of what's listed on that page, I think. Yeah, it keeps going on. The Utbird, Norwegian, Icelandic, and Finnish folklore. It's kind of like a myling. It goes on and on.
Cool.
The Actan kids, the changeling kids, the kids that turn into animals. Ew. Yeah, that's a creepy one.
Ian said, New Templar Knights conspiracy recently dropped that something is predicted to happen on 6/6 of 26 at 6 p.m. That's Saturday. Nearly excited about it.
Ooh.
That's wild.
6 p.m. whose time, though?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. Okay, the next one is Julie with book 4, page 80, please.
Okay. Easy enough.
And Enzo said, creepy. Thanks, Jess. Creepy. Yeah. Little creepy kids are always, ugh.
Yes. Okay, so this is part of the haunted animals, the ghost animals.
Yeah.
This one's on the ghost chicken of Pond Square.
I remember this.
This was from like our very first season. It was like the second or third show in, so this is a little older. The ghost chicken of Pond Square. This is from Highgate, London. Statesman and philosopher Francis Bacon considered using snow as a way to preserve meat. His first and only experiment was on a chicken. He killed, plucked, and filled a chicken with snow, but caught pneumonia from the snow that he was digging around in, and died before he could see if it worked. Unfortunately, it was not Bacon's ghost who came back to haunt Highgate, but the chicken he killed. It is well known as the Highgate Chicken Ghost. It reportedly runs circles around London's Pond Square, disappearing if someone gets too near.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious. And if I remember correctly, I probably had some hilarious, like, drawn, like, ghost chicken that we showed along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. There was some kind of, something that went along with it for sure. I can't remember exactly what it was. Not 100%. Next is Sylvain with book 2, page 30. Because one of them you had to actually, I don't remember if you hand drew something or if you actually, I can't remember.
I remember I had to do a rabbit in a couch. Like it floated.
Yes.
I can't remember.
That's what it was.
That's funny.
Too funny.
Okay. Sylvain's is part of the cemetery game stuff. There's a few cemeteries listed here, and the stuff that you have to do to get the ghost in the cemetery to interact with you. Pam and I also did a little series on this, and I just have listings and listings. We didn't even do them all.
Where We Bury Them, I think is the title of it's a two-parter.
Yeah. And I don't even know if this part made it to show because I had so many of them. We just did as many as could fill some time, and then we just stopped and moved on. The Undead Crypt Keeper in West Edmonton Cemetery in New York. It's at the Mausoleum of Eunice Welch. If you knock on the door, you'll hear a rustling inside and then a knock that will match your own. Sometimes instead of a knock, a hissing voice will say, leave me, go." So that's one you can do there. Mary the Witch in the burial grounds in New Jersey. Mary Moore, a supposed witch, was buried there. If you walk around her grave 3 times at night and spit, her spirit will appear to you. Her stone is missing, crushed by a brother after his little brother's death. So someone else entirely, not her brother. And then we have Smiley's ghost from Mills Cemetery in Garland, Texas. 5 members died in a murder-suicide by their father. If you lay down on his grave at midnight, you won't be able to get back up because Old Man Smiley got you. So just some of the fun ones.
That's awesome. Old Man Smiley gotcha. Okay, this is the last one, and this is Ian. Book 4, page 64, please. Blah, blah. Can't talk anymore.
Old Man Smiley gotcha.
Ian said, lean into the yawn. Pam, you're not hiding it. I used to try to hide it worse, and it was terrible because I looked like I was grimacing because I would try to yawn with my mouth closed.
Yeah, she's all like...
At least I do this now.
Okay, so this is UFO stuff. This is UFO sighting out of Howard, Kansas. Happened January 6, 1950. It's from UFOs, A History by Lauren E. Gross, page 2 at the bottom, if you want to know where it's at. The Inspector General Headquarters, SAC, contacted the district commander of the 13th OSI to make an inquiry into something witnessed by an aircrew of a C-47. The OSI did look into the matter and determined the following. On the 6th January 1950, Captain Robert E. Zimmerman, Captain Frederick E. Howard, and First Lieutenant Harold G. Simpson, while en route by air from Carswell Air Force Base, Texas, to Offutt Air Force Base near Howard, Kansas. The object, 30 to 60 feet in length, shaped like a football and bright silver in color, was proceeding in straight level flight at approximately 2,000 feet with an estimated speed of 300 to 500 miles per hour. The object was in sight for less than 2 minutes and then faded from view. The weather was reported as CAVU, which means ceiling and visibility unlimited. Inquiry notes, 3 observers claimed it to be very bright silver. Howard added that the object had a red nose. Weird. On 25th of January, Lieutenant W.C. Kincannon at the Olathe Naval Air Force Base in Kansas advised that no reports concerning any unconventional aircraft had been received at the base. He further stated that the weather on 6th of January 1950 was clear with visibility at 12 miles and that no weather balloons of any type had been released on that date, nor had any flares of any type been released. And that was from the U.S. Air Force Internet Archives, U.S. Project Blue Book, UFO Investigations, 1947 through 1969.
You know, that may be the one that showed up, that they, it was in, was it Life magazine? I want to say it was Life. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. Are you having an avalanche? A notebook avalanche?
I had a notebook avalanche. Nothing.
And on that note,
my little monkey. Anywho, do we have any more? Or is that it? Because my
That was
notebooks
it.
are all on the floor.
It
Good.
was good timing for the notebook of lunch.
I am so sorry, everyone at home, if you heard that. It was terrible. Okay, moving on. We should probably end it for the night. We've gone overtime just a little bit. Before everybody leaves, take a really quick second. If you are hanging out watching us live right now, give us the likes, the shares, the thumbs up, hit the bells, the buttons, and all that fun jazz, and subscribe so you know when we're bringing you new content. Thank you for everybody hanging out in the chats and listening to our insanity. We appreciate you so much. Join us every other Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for an all-new show. Our next show will be June 17th. That will be, we'll announce what that topic will be soon. We're still kind of working on some stuff behind the scenes. We'll get back with that. Yeah, and contact us if you would like, if you have a certain show idea that you want to hear more about, or a topic that you really like, or even your own story. We would love to hear it. Anywho's, we appreciate you all. Have a very fine evening. Remember, keep it weird, keep it strange, and it's all connected. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Fearful of notebook avalanches.